This will be for the con assignment, probability of at least one success. When Hiroto is writing, there is 0.92 probability that there will be no spelling mistakes on a page. One day he writes an essay that is 11 pages long. Assuming that Hiroto is equally likely to have a spelling mistake on each of the 11 pages, what is the probability that he will have a spelling mistake on at least one of the pages? Okay, so they're saying at least one page. The opposite of that, the opposite of having at least one page, or the complement of that, is mistakes on no pages. Okay, that's going to be the complement. So remember, for complement, we just subtract it from 100%, or the number 1. So I'm going to do 1 minus the probability that he has a mistake on 0 pages. Okay? In other words, no mistakes. All right? So we're starting with 1, or 100%, and we want to find the probability that he has no mistakes, or a mistake on 0 pages. All right? So it says there's a 0.92 probability there will be no spelling mistakes on one page. Okay? So for the first page, the probability of no mistakes is 0.92. And then on the second page, the probability of no mistakes is 0.92. Okay? And so on and so on. It keeps going. And we can just multiply those, because those are independent events. So for 11 pages, it's going to be 0.92 multiplied 11 times. All right? So it's just going to be 0.92 to the 11th power. 1 minus 0.92 to the 11th power. So we're just going to do that on the calculator. Okay, so I clicked show calculator, but of course you can use your own. And I'm going to do 1 minus 0.92, and this is for the exponent right here, the x to the y button, and I'm going to make that to the 11th power. So it's 1 minus 0.92 to the 11th power. Okay, and when I hit equals, it's a pretty big decimal. But it says right here, round your answer to the nearest tenth. That's only 1 decimal. Okay, so in order to round to 1 decimal, you look at the second decimal. Okay, if it's less than 5, you round it down. Of course, 0 is less than 5, so we're just going to round it down. All right, when I say round it down, that just means you eliminate the extra decimals. So this is the answer right here, 0.6. So you just click in the box and type 0.6. So inside the box, 0.6. Mrs. Wheeler prepares a list of 43 U.S. presidents, 31 of whom served in the military. Then 8 students each select a president at random. There can be repeats for their civics presentation. What is the probability that at least one of the students will select a president who did not serve in the military? Okay, again, we're just going to do, since they said at least one who did not serve in the military, we're going to subtract the complement. So we're going to do 1 minus the probability that, if it's going to be at least one who did not serve in the military, we're going to do 1 minus the probability that they all served in the military. Okay, so that's the complement. So that's going to be 1 minus, okay, so let's see here. Remember that 8 students are selecting, okay, and there can be repeats. So the probability of one of them serving in the military since 31 out of 43 served in the military, it's going to be 31 over 43. Okay, and remember 8 students are selecting. So we're going to have to multiply this 8 times. Okay, it's going to be 31 out of 43 for the first student selection, then 31 out of 43 for the second student, and so on. It just keeps going. And since 8 students are selecting, it's going to get multiplied 8 times. So it's going to be 31 out of 43 to the 8th power. Alright, so it's going to be 1 minus 31 over 43 to the 8th power. So on the calculator, 1 minus, and use parentheses, 31 divided by 43, close the parentheses, and that gets raised to the 8th power. So you see that? 1 minus 31 over 43 to the 8th power. I hit equals. It's a big decimal. Okay, but you can see here it says round to the nearest hundredth. That's 2 decimal places. So you want to go to the 3rd decimal, and if it's 5 or more, you round it up. So this 0.92 becomes 0.93. Okay, and you just enter that in the box. So click inside the box and just type 0.93 or 0.93. When Hugo is serving at a restaurant, there is a 0.03 probability that each party will request a high chair for a young child. During 1 hour, Hugo served 10 parties. Assuming that each party is equally likely to request a high chair, what is the probability that at least one party will request a high chair? Okay, so the opposite of at least one is none. All right, so it's going to be 1 minus the probability that none request a high chair. All right, so see, when they say at least one, that can be 1, 2, 3, and so on, up to 10 parties, right? So the opposite of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the opposite of all those is going to be none. So it's going to be 1 minus the probability of none selected. All right. So, if the chance of selecting a high chair is 0.03, let me see here. If their chance of selecting a high chair is 0.03, the chance of not selecting the high chair is going to be 1 minus 0.03. So that's 0.97. All right. And there's 10 parties. So for the first party that doesn't select a high chair, 0.97. For the second party that doesn't select a high chair, 0.97. And it keeps going and going. And there's 10 parties. So 0.97 is multiplied 10 times. So it's going to be 1 minus 0.97 to the 10th power. So we need the calculator. So I'm going to do 1 minus 0.97. Here's the exponent button, to the 10th power. 1 minus 0.97 to the 10th. Okay, we get our decimal, and it says round to the nearest hundredth. That's 2 decimals. So if you look at the 3rd decimal, if it's less than 5, you round it down. So that means we can just eliminate all these, and it's going to be a 0.26. So just click inside the box and type 0.26. 0.26.